What's up everyone, Shirley here. Today we're going to be looking at ny'alotha Corruptor on heroic difficulty. I would like to talk about some more interesting fights than this one. However, it's pretty obvious that a lot of people need to see this fight, so we're going to jump right into this one. This is from my perspective, still playing Arms. Arms is actually really good on this fight. I went ahead and skipped over the first little pull thing because most people know how to do that so far, just killing all the synapses and whatever. We're saving all of our cooldowns for the first burn phase here on ny'alotha Corruptor. I would highly recommend that anybody in a pug does this. You're wanting to get as much health out of them during these burn phases as you possibly can before the final burn phase of the fight. That'll just make things a lot easier. How was I doing 100k at the beginning there without popping cooldowns? As an Arms Warrior, you're going to be using Colossus Smash. That's it, because it resets 3 times in that window, so you're going to have it up for the burn phase, so don't worry about it. You're also going to want to run Sweeping Strikes, what's the talent? Collateral Damage on this fight in particular, because there is a ton of 2 to 3 target cleave scenarios, and because of the strength of Test of Might right now, we're going to be getting a ton of Rage refunded back. Here's a perfect example. Every time we go on the tentacle phases, you're always going to be cleaving one. Well, not always, but for the most part, you're going to be cleaving one, getting that big Test of Might buff, and then, you know, go ahead and transitioning over to the Blade Storm here. But I'm in group, I want to say 2 for this pull. It's hard to say. I haven't actually watched this back since I did it. But we're going to go ahead and group up for all this stuff, and we split our group because we get the 2 Basher tentacles that come up at this stage. The group 1 is going to take the 2 closest tentacles that are right on top of the spawn where we move in the room, and then group 2 is going to go way off to the right and grab those other 2. And when you're splitting your groups, I would recommend that you do this as well. That way you can go ahead and kick that far Corruptor tentacle that always spawns off by the other Basher tentacle. And then once the first group goes down in the portal like they just did, we're going to transition immediately around to the other side of the room. If you're not aware, they always spawn in the same spot every time, and come over here and start cleaving these 2 down. However, the Basher is priority. That's why I've got it focused off here, but we are going to be kicking that Corruptor, you know, before any of its casts get off. Excuse me. And the Basher's still priority, because if it gets off 2 of its thrash things on the tank, that's pretty dangerous, and it can kill the tank. As far as the, you know, little phase right here, it's the same as it is during the first part. You know, group up if you need to, or spread out, whatever. Don't stack on other people. Once you get that first group down in the back of the room, aka behind the eyeball of ny'alotha, that's about where this second Basher is always going to spawn with these 2 Corruptors. It's really beneficial to assign, or not assign necessarily, but at least call out on Discord like kicks on each of these 2. You know, I got the back one, I got the front one, etc. Because, you know, you're just trying to mitigate as much damage as possible here. Still focusing down that Basher tentacle. You can go ahead and nuke one of these Corruptors really fast here if you're having trouble with the interrupts, but otherwise, it's not that big of a deal. I'd still say focus the Basher. Now, I don't know what he's doing right here. He shouldn't have been running away from me. We need to get that down. These little spike tentacles here, we do need to get as much passive pressure on them as we can. But once the first group comes back up, that's when we're going to go ahead and pop all of our cooldowns again here on ny'alotha. That would be memory, because we're going to have memory lucid dreams up for every single one of these burn phases. And just get as much damage into him as we possibly can. And now you can see the little debuff he's got that, you know, shows that he's stunned underneath his nameplate. And you'll get Colossus Smash back up during the first burn phase anyway. Not the second one, it doesn't look like. But during the first burn phase, you've got like 5 seconds left. I'd say go ahead and use it, because you're going to be doing this AFK portion here anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you're going to want to head and just put in as much damage as possible. You can tell which way that he's going to be dragging you off, the little black swirly thing coming off you. You're going to go ahead and use our necklace channel after every single burn phase. A couple of the pugs I've been in, like this week, just don't know when to use that properly, but every single time after the burn phase, you want to use that necklace, because you're going to have it up again for the next time, and it just keeps you topped off, especially if you know, get drugged through a synapse or a neuron, whatever they're called, and take a little bit of insanity hit, and then you're going to have that topped up, and you're going to have it again before the final burn phase of the fight. because you won't be able to use it again during that phase. You'll just have to rely on the little light orbs to get any sanity back that you lose. But frankly, you won't need it if you're using your necklace at the appropriate time before it goes away during the end. And the same thing, it's just a rinse repeat from this point on in the fight. We're going to go ahead and get down that Basher Tentacle and the Corruptor. And I'm in the second group here, so I'm not running over to get the other group as they spawn. We're just going to jump into the portal here. And the portal groups, these, for whatever reason, a lot of people still are deciding like routes on this. This is the route that we use, and hopefully it's useful. We're going to go ahead and run over here to that one that's kind of right by Psychus itself and cleave it down. And as, you know, arms, we got sweeping strikes, so we don't actually have to hit the synapses that much unless you notice that our, you know, little group here is taking too long to kill these things. Then we'll go ahead and switch. But between Blade Storm and Sweeping Strikes and Whirlwind, we're doing a lot of passive cleave on them anyway, and that allows us to just focus Psychus here because he's taking that damage increase buff and getting out of this phase as fast as possible off of each of these synapses. So we're going to go ahead and kill those two in a line there, and then we're going to cut over to get that kind of diagonal one, and then we're going to arc our way back around to our bodies here, and that'll give us 5 sacks, 6 potentially, can't remember the number off the top of my head, and that's because we want to end up right back at our bodies as he's dying. That way we can immediately get out of this realm and go back up top and start putting as much damage into Ny'alotha as possible during that burn phase, because each of those windows is very valuable when he's stunned like that. So we're going to go save. Depending on your DPS, oh, I ate too much of that. I'm not sure what I was doing right there. Awkward. But during our burn phase here, we're gonna save our last Colossus Smash depending on your damage right there. You can get in a couple, but the third one, sometimes you'll still have them around like 40% or something, and it looks like you might want to use it, but I wouldn't, because you're gonna want to save it for right here at the end. Once again, we're going to rotate our way back around to our other group, and that's to help clean up any of these tentacles that they might still have remaining. And we're not hitting them directly, we're just, you know, focusing on Ny'alotha, but I can cleave off of any of these with Whirlwind, and as soon as he comes back up out of his stun phase, then we're going to go ahead and finish off any remaining tentacles and enter the last phase of the fight here. And from this point, it's a big burn phase, and there's a couple of ways we can deal with the few mechanics that are, you know, part of this last phase. The Thought Harvester here and Evoke Anguish. This first Evoke Anguish, which are these black circles you see that spawn under all of our feet that get them here, we're going to go ahead and jump out and take those as far away from the boss as possible on that first set. Some people like to stack them right next to the boss. We found that by the end of the fight, you know, if there's a high number of people in the group, there isn't in this particular kill, but it gets a bit messy by the end if there's a lot of people. So we'd like to take out that first group, come back in, and we're going to be hitting Psychus, cleaving the Thought Harvester. You might have to focus the Thought Harvester because we do want to kill, you know, a few of them, and we do have to soak his little pool thing that he does every time. Don't stand directly underneath the Thought Harvester when he does that, though, because he himself spawns one of them little black anguish pools, and we've had a few people die to that. And when you're dropping these things out, don't linger at all, frankly, because they start to tick like immediately, and they hurt. Like a couple of hits of these pools will kill you, especially as arms, because we don't have any self-healing or anything like that. And you do have to pay attention to the drag thing once again here, and we're just rotating around the room from these pools so we're not dragging, you know, ourselves back through our own stuff. And from this point on, I'm trying to save memory for execute phase. I might go ahead, I think I used it early here because we ended up lusting here, or, well, no, we lusted like 20 seconds ago, actually. I'm trying to save it for execute phase to get, you know, as much value out of it as possible for arms. But, like I said, during the end here, it gets really messy. It actually gets pretty hard to get good uptime on the boss and actually execute. So you might consider using your last memory during just the lust, when you've got a little bit more room, a little bit more time. Now, I jumped out this pool because our call was just every man for himself at this point. And we're not soaking these last couple of Thought Harvesters. We're just trying to get as much damage on the boss as we can and eat these. And like I said, we're running out of room here completely. So especially when these beams come out that you got to rotate with, it can be pretty dicey. But we ended up getting it in the end. This was at the end of the first week, so a little bit rough. We got a lot to clean up, but that's how we handled ny'alotha the Corruptor on Heroic. If you guys have any questions about our route or anything, feel free to leave them down below, and I will see what I can do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.